I think I'll just have to whatever seems important at the time I'm recording, I will just say it then. Any dates I can remember, of course, I will bring up also. The last 3 years, in fact, I've kept not a diary, but I jotted down dates of important events. It's more than 3 years. It's in a way 6 years ago I started doing this. For no special reason. I don't know, many things have come up on and off in 6 years. And I've been jotting things down, so I have a pretty good idea at which time what event took place. Nora had said to me, try to go back before you were 6 years old, since everything seems to have started in my life when I was 6. So I'm going to try to really remember what happened just prior to their divorce and World War II. Those 2 years when I was reunited with my mother, that strange, whom I eventually, of course, realized was my mother. What I remember mostly is she took a lot of pride in my hair, and every night she would do those curls, those long, round curls, and she'd waste hours combing my hair and making those curls. I guess it was the Shirley Temple look at that time. I also remember my father being an extremely good dancer. My mother wasn't. And he would always have the music on. And him and I would dance a lot together, all kinds of crazy things. He always loved it. I think I got my taste for dancing because of him. He had a fantastic rhythm. And because of that, I myself loved dancing. And I remember Saturdays afternoons being all dressed up, the three of us, and walking on the boulevard, the main street in Antwerp. And when we would walk, and there would be open bars, open cabarets, and I'd hear music, and I remember starting to dance. I'd let go of their hands, and I'd just start dancing, and they would laugh and get a big kick out of it, and let me dance a few steps, and then take me back by the hand and keep walking again. And this was a custom. I think 99% of the Jews in Antwerp on Saturdays, after coming back from the synagogue and after having lunch, they would all take those walks on the main street and nod to each other and talk to each other. And it was not a too big city, and so many people knew one another. And we'd all be so well dressed, and I remember it with good feelings. I remembered mostly stopping to dance whenever I'd hear music, and the two of them laughing, enjoying it, reacting to it. And things seemed very calm that around those times. Things just seemed just all right. I don't remember much yelling or fighting in the house at all. Everybody seemed content and satisfied. There was no... it wasn't like a typical household where if two people can't get along, they fight, argue. I just can't remember any of this. Or maybe they waited till I was asleep. I just don't know. I also remember my aunt very often, who Well, she would live 3-4 blocks away. Very often would come and pick me up so I could go and play with my 2 cousins. My older cousin David was 3 years older, and then there was my cousin Herman, who was 6 months younger than I was. And she would very often take me to her house, and I'd play there. And I remember very, very good moments around that period. It was good times. It was peaceful. I just can't remember any screaming or yelling on the parts, on my parents' part. It just unreal that it finally ended up in a divorce, their life together. I seem to remember that when that many times I spent evenings also at my aunt's house, and nights I would sleep over. I didn't know why. I don't remember why. Later on, many years later, she would say that my father liked to go to wrestling matches and go and watch. And my mother was pretty much on her own, and she would then have these different affairs. And then the fighting, the screaming, it was awful. So my aunt would always want to help out, and she would take me to her house, and that's the reason I spent evenings there. In other words, most of all the happenings must have been behind my back. I was absolutely not aware of any wrongdoings on either part. Another incident that I seem to remember is I was going to kindergarten, and every day my mother gave me a lunchbox with food in it. I couldn't eat. I would always give it away. And when I'd come home, she'd say, "Did you eat it?" And I would say, "Yes." And she would say, "You're lying. You're lying again." We had this big thing about always my lying regarding food, because I hated to eat. And she would say lie. And then she would tell me that I shouldn't lie anymore, because one day I'm going to wake up with a very, very long beard. And boy, did that scare me. Every night I'd go to sleep holding my chin. My hand was under my chin. I really believed it. And so I forced myself to eat my lunch. And then at times I still couldn't, so either I'd throw it away or I'd give it away. And then we'd go through the same bit again. She would say, "Did you eat it?" I would say yes, and she'd say, "You're lying." And I'd say no. And of course, that same night, I would sleep again with my hand underneath my chin. Well, at the age of 41, I still many times fall asleep like that, my hand underneath my chin. It's a habit. It's completely ludicrous. But I've slept this way for so many years, it's an instinct reflex. But this is one of the business she used to pull on me, tell me these stupid stories. And of course at that age you believe everything. I really should start now with the business of the divorce. I remember that first. I remember this very clearly, how one day my father approached me and he said, your mother and I are getting a Yiddish get. It's a Jewish get. It's a divorce, a Jewish divorce. He says, and we're not going to live together anymore, the three of us, and I don't know, something to that effect. I absolutely couldn't believe that the three of us are not going to live together anymore. We had only lived together 2 years, and already we have to